Good morning and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. We're here to chat all things Leeds United with myself, Stephen Brown, and joining me as ever, Jason Booker as well. Good morning and welcome along, everyone. Just a few short hours after last night, an incredible victory against Chelsea. I think we're still all on cloud nine from that. Jay, how many times did you watch those highlights, by the way?
Yeah, I definitely watched them a few times, as I did watch a couple of the others as well. It was really enjoyable to watch the Premier League highlights on the good old YT last night, and enjoy seeing everybody else struggle as well. I don't watch other football highlights when Leeds have lost usually.
I am exactly the same. Match of the day don't even exist when Leeds have lost.
Yeah, I'm
exactly the same.
So, given that we've lost 16-7,
I've not seen much yet.
Yeah, I've not watched much recently. So, it was nice. God, I mean, just to kind of go away from Leeds just for a second, but did you see the pass from Ross for Sunderland from the goalkeeper straight to Isidore through one-on-one, and then
I watched about half an hour ago. Wow.
There were some unbelievable saves yesterday as well. There were the Dean Henderson one for Crystal Palace, which he tips onto the bar. It's phenomenal. And then in the very next game I watched, there were another one. I think it were where it now. There were another one anyway that tipped it straight on the bar in exactly the same kind of fashion. Unbelievable. So top football yesterday, and you know, none more so than Leeds United turning up. I tell you what highlight I've watched several times is the one where Goodmunson goes in for a tackle, Pascal goes in for a tackle, it then breaks, and then Ampadu smashes him, and then they just clear us out because they were just so frustrated. Like, they couldn't deal with it, could they? They just we bullied them yesterday. Gary Neville said it. We absolutely bullied them. We beat them up yesterday, and that was the difference. This team have got that in the locker to be able to do that. So yeah, mate, buzzing. So proud of what we experienced yesterday.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. I'd echo all that. Thanks for everyone getting any comments in. Please do keep commenting, get your likes on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Sporting Journey, welcome along. Good morning, Browney and Jason. Hope you're both well. Couldn't sleep with excitement of the result and had to watch the game back. Have to say it felt even more satisfying. It's just a beautiful feeling. When Leeds United have won, it's just everything is right in the world, isn't it? Absolutely. Mark, hi lads. Welcome along, Mark. Thanks for watching. Gav, morning, mate. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. Just a couple other bits we want to pick up on, maybe that we didn't cover. We did a full match review last night. So if you want in kind of, you know, a bit more in-depth analysis on the game and see if any giddy Jason and Browney do, check that out there as well. But I just wanted to kind of pick up Enzo Maresca's comments after the game, Jay, because I remember, and I don't know if I'm misremembering, but I think Maresca annoyed me a couple of times in the Championship when he was Leicester boss. He had a kind of, I think when we beat them, and he was pretty snide about it.
It was the comments before the game, wasn't it? When he were,
it's not a big game.
It's a big game for them. A big game.
Yeah.
That's where the kind of bitterness with him came from, I think. Yeah.
So his card was always marked, but I've got to say, last night he couldn't say anything other than they were the better than us in every aspect, deserve to win. Nothing we can take from this game. All we can do is try to understand the mistakes we've done, and it was kind of refreshing to see, because sometimes managers will put a spin on it. You know, he's managing a club that have spent a lot of money, big ambitions, but he had to hold his hands up, Jay, and say they were far and away the second team. And that's, you know, I'm delighted for Farke as well, because, you know, that's someone he's going up against. Yes, it's the players on the pitch, but it's also a battle in the dugout as well.
100%. I'm just going to bring this straight up from Gav, because I actually think this is exactly why when you come to me, Gav, and say, oh, I couldn't get the better of Russell Martin, I say it don't mean anything.
Yeah,
because I would, even though this kind of backs me up as a Farke fan or supporter, whatever you want to call, I don't think that this means that much.
Yeah,
I really don't. Like, I think Farke did an unbelievable job yesterday. I think the circumstances and scenarios are what they are, and I don't think it actually means like Farke's like that doesn't make him a bad manager now.
No,
exactly. I mean? It's one of them things, isn't it? So. But yeah, he absolutely got the better of him yesterday, as he did doing the two games against Leicester. You know, as much as I want to ravage all the praise that we deserve on the boys yesterday, I do think that Chelsea were really bad. Usually, I actually go the other way. Like Downs is a couple of times I said they've been really crap. which then kind of negates away from the Leeds performance. And I've disagreed heavily because I think this season, when we've made other teams look poor, it's been down to us. I think some of what Chelsea were doing last night was because of them.
Were they a bit arrogant in that lineup, Jay?
I mean, they had Caicedo out, didn't they? Yeah, Cole Palmer's coming back from injury. You could maybe argue that Neto should have started. I think he was probably the big one. He's been on such good form. But, you know, when you've got a squad like that, you have to rotate. They play in Europe. You know, they're playing bear in mind, they played on Sunday with 10 men. You know what I mean? Like, there will have been some condition issues. There will have been tired going and then away again on Wednesday night. And you've got to look at the quality that they're then bringing in. It's not like they're bringing in Ilya Gruev. They're bringing in Esteval, and, you know, they're bringing in quality out in and amongst their ranks. So they've got that squad for a reason. I think that's where the top managers earn their big bucks, is being able to rotate the squad efficiently and still get the results. I don't think it was because of the rotation last night. I just think the combination of Ellen Road, how good we were on the day, how off it they were. What really surprised me with them was how poor they were on the ball. They were really slack in possession. They kept on giving the ball back to us, especially in the first half. It were 5-yard passes. They were just passing it to the feet of the midfielders on occasion. So, yeah, I think it was a combination of everything. And Maresca's taking it well on the chin, I thought, and it were right. But above all else, we wanted it more. We outfought them. We bullied them into being, you know, in that position. So, yeah, and we were clinical as well, weren't we?
Yeah, we absolutely were. Absolutely. I've been watching a bit of Chelsea content as well. Kind of, you know, I always love doing that when we beat a team, especially a team that I don't like, and seeing what the fans saying. Their fans, to be fair to them, said, not worried about playing Barcelona, not worried about playing Arsenal particularly, because they know they will be up for those games. There'll be a certain attention paid to them. It's playing Burnley, where they struggled against Burnley. They've now lost to Leeds. And it's that kind of thing where, I guess for the players as well, I mean, obviously they went through, you know, war and death, didn't they, with Arsenal at the weekend, you know, and they played out their skins. And then, you know, to go to Ellen Road a few days later and you know, you're stepping into a bear pit, you know, where it's right on top of you. You're playing a team scrapping at the bottom. It kind of has those perfect ingredients for us to do what we did last night, doesn't it? And I'm just glad we were able to take advantage.
Well, we talked a lot yesterday, didn't we, about mental attributes and the players that are at the top of the Premier League, like Man City. You know, when they've got Liverpool breathing down the neck over the previous few years and they've been able to finish on 99 points and Liverpool finished on 97, like, that is mental resilience. It's playing on the Sunday, getting a result, and then going away to Leeds on a Wednesday and winning regardless of injury, fitness, you know, all the rest of it. Lack of attention, concentration. That Chelsea squad's still really young, you know, and they are going to be guilty at times of switching off and taking things for granted, arrogance, whatever you kind of want to call it, overconfidence, and that will then show up in teams that are not ready to then yet win the Premier League, regardless of the quality that they've got. You know, you could argue that Chelsea have got more quality on the pitch than maybe even Arsenal. I think Arsenal right now have got they're built way more than just the quality. Yeah. You know, even down to the rigidness of the way that they score from set pieces and stuff. That is intense training ground work, constant repetition. Do it again until it perfects. And, you know, a lot of people don't like Arteta. You can't argue with the fact that he is a bit of a perfectionist. You can see that he's absolutely drilled what he's got in there now. So, and that'll come with time for that Chelsea team. The smartest thing that they can do is keep on sticking behind Maresca and keep on building in the way that they are. Because in 2 or 3 years' time, some of them players that they've got within them ranks are going to be unstoppable. They've got a problem at the back for me. When Reece James is out of the side, they look completely different. I think he's elite. He's just got so many injury problems. And then the centre backs, especially yesterday, Tosin. He looked capable of that all night, I thought, and he always does look a little bit sketchy. So, you know, but yeah, don't know how I got to that point, but
well, I'm going to say it out there because on reflection, I was like biting my nails. I was like, oh my God, you know, the second, and then when you actually when you're out of the situation, we were not threatened really much at all. I mean, they had 2 shots on the target, and really we were kind of comfortable. If you take all the kind of emotion out of it and the situation, we were pretty comfortable, and we looked really resolute. So yeah, some questions for Chelsea there. Like you say, I think 2 or 3 years it'll be interesting to see where they're at. Hopefully they don't do that well though.
I'll be honest with you, I like them being involved in the battle.
Yeah, well, more teams is more interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't want to win the league, of course not. But like, I do enjoy seeing them being like. I'll be honest with you, I've got a bit of a soft spot for the Jose Mourinho Chelsea. Like I used to really enjoy watching, and I think it's probably because they went up against Manchester United, and I'd still prefer Chelsea to do well than them. So
it was refreshing at the time, wasn't it? That I remember when Chelsea all of a sudden kind of entered that kind of sphere. It was like, oh, this is new, better than just Arsenal and Man United every year. Yeah, exactly. So I think they're onto something, at Chelsea. I really do. I think they're in they've settled down after that initial takeover from Todd Bowley and the way that they were buying players and it were all a bit carnage, wasn't it? They've settled down a bit. I do think they're onto something. Yeah, indeed. Now a stat that did pop up pre-game, and I thought it's definitely worth mentioning because he's been probably the performer of the season so far. Joe Rodon became the first outfield Leeds United player to appear in 100 consecutive league/playoff matches in a row since Norman Hunter between 1962 and 1965. I mean, Jay, you're talking about 50-60 year record there. Absolutely phenomenal. And I think for me, in kind of where I rank Leeds United defenders, I know we've touched this, like Rodon's just climbing that list for me. He's climbing that list, and it's going to be really fascinating to see where he ends up in the kind of spectrum with Leeds. Because I mean, he stepped up to the Premier League like a duck to water. It's like, yeah, this is my level. This is where I'm at. I mean, last night it was kind of he went kind of unnoticed. He was probably not talked about that much, but that's good because he just does what he's supposed to do all the time. He's just so consistent, and he just has such a good mentality, Joe Rodon. And that stat, in the modern day, with how frenetic the game is and how fit players have to be and everything, it's unreal.
That's every game since Southampton away, and we all remember that game. Do you remember about 5 games?
Put it back in, fuck.
He sat on the bench and Cooper played, and we got destroyed, and we were awful. I remember it's clear as anything, and he's played every game since then. You could argue that Joe Rodon is our best value for money signing. He's definitely in the top 3 since we were last in the Premier League in 2002. I would argue that the only better value for money signing is Rafinha. I would literally argue that. I think 10 million, 12 million, or whatever it was. I know Tanaka for 3 million could maybe be thrown into the question as well. But in terms of the output on the pitch on such a consistent basis, the guy is legit. I mean, last season he looked every bit of Premier League player. We both thought that he'd step up to the Premier League really, really well. He's got the pace of a proper Premier League centre back. I think that's one of his most underrated attributes. He's so fast. He reads the game really well. He's good in the air. He's a better ball player than people give him credit for as well. I actually think he's the better of the two when him and Stroke have been playing. I think he's the more accurate, the more with intention. I mean, there were times last night we were playing at right wing because of the way that the formation was going. It was like bombing down the right-hand side. And yeah, he's class, mate.
He doesn't make
mistakes. Very, very rare.
And that is like, in a defender, that is like priceless. You've just got that faith, haven't you? When he's on the ball, he's not going to mess it up. He's not going to lose the ball. He's not going to do what Tosin did last night. He's just on it all the time.
It's funny because he's a bit like Liam Cooper without the calamity. Liam Cooper was an exceptionally good centre back, but he would often have them banana moments that you're talking about, and we all know what I'm talking about. He would have them calamitous moments, but when he was defending well, it looked really good. He's got all of that, and I'd say he's faster than Cooper as well. He's quicker over the ground than Cooper was. So yeah, he's more he's more like that than Ben White. But I mean, in terms of like falling in love with a lone player, Ben White was like the darling, wasn't he? Like loved him, and Joe Rodon kind of replaced him perfectly. He's the best centre back that we've had since Ben White. He's without a doubt the best centre back that we've had since Ben White.
Yeah, absolutely. And last time we were in the Premier League, if we'd have had someone like him on the form that he is, it would have helped, no doubt at all.
Oh, can you imagine him in the season that we went down? Just how much this version of him, obviously not the version that he might have been then, but the version that we've got of him now. And I mean, again, you know, where's the credit to Daniel Farke? Are we just going to say that this is all down to the player? Like,
he had a mishmash career up till that point, hadn't he, Jay? I mean, he gets the move to Spurs, doesn't break through there, goes off to play for Reims in France, and then kind of comes back, and it's like a kind of, you know, he was probably about 26 at that point, and it's like, okay, what happens next? And you're absolutely bang on. He goes into a team, a lot of pressure, and I think Farke has kind of given him this role, this identity that, you know, he's clearly a leader on and off the pitch, and I think you're absolutely bang on. I think Farke has to take some credit for that as well.
100%. I mean, going with just too quick as a generalization here, I'm talking, you know, to just kind of skirt over that and just go, he's a good player. That's it. There's no coaching or management attached to what's happened with him. Like you say, it was a bit all over the place when he came to Leeds, and Farke has got the absolute maximum out of him. Ethan Ampadu's, I think, a similar kind of position to that as well, you know. And amongst others, we saw what we got out of Junior Firpo as an example. That could have been a little bit more to do with the level and the injuries, sure, but he still got a lot out of him. Manor Solomon, you know, Jaden Bogle, I think, is a different player under him than what I'd heard of from before. There's several. Archie Gray came through, you know.
What he did with Somerville, Rutter, like firing when, I agree completely. And I mean, as Gav says here, played all the Wales games in that as well. I mean, Jesus. Absolutely. Some
given the way that he plays, he's never injured. He just never gets injured.
It's mad, isn't it? Yeah, please. Yeah, I mean, that's, with this kind of new formation or whatever it does, you know, you do worry about a couple of people if they end up going out.
You can't play this formation without them three.
No, you can't.
You can't. With what this squad's got, you can't. You cannot.
No,
I cannot. I cannot. It's one of them. We can't. I'm telling you, Daniel Farke will 100% revert back to the 4-2-3-1 or the 4-3-3 if any of them three get injured.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Something else that happened at halftime last night. Howard Wilkinson, former Leeds manager, is being inducted into the National Football Hall of Fame. So there was a little kind of honorary celebration that went on for him at halftime last night. It feels like, you know, Wilco's finally kind of getting his credit and his dues for what he achieved. He did make a comment as well, which I thought was nice. And he said football's kind of given him everything in his life. And he remarked that when his own father left school at 14, he was straight down the pits. Whereas, you know, Howard Wilkinson's had this unbelievable kind of career in football, and it kind of brings it home, doesn't it? You know, what someone like him has achieved, you know, the background he's come from. And it's just nice to see him get the kind of adulation, really, because he's kind of a little bit of a forgotten man, I think, you know, especially kind of in the wider perspective of things. I mean, don't forget, this is the last football manager who won the top flight in England. If it had just been a year later and he had a Premier League title, I think it would have been a little bit maybe more renowned or more kind of looked at. But because it was just outside that Premier League bubble, it's kind of been forgotten a bit. But nice to see him finally get his dues, Jay.
Yeah, I mean, he probably doesn't get the credit that he deserves even in a Leeds sphere because of the reputation of Don Revie. It kind of supersedes what Howard Wilkinson did, but you know, he was really the catalyst to what that Leeds team was in and around that time. You know, promotion, season of establishment, and then winning the league. I think that was right, wasn't it? There was a year gap in between us winning the second division, winning the first division.
Finished fourth, I think, when they finished fourth when they came straight up and then won it.
And that's you know, unbelievable. And you're right. Like, if it had won the Premier League, it would have probably looked a little bit different. The last thing it blows my mind that he's the last English manager to win the top flight. That blows my mind, especially when you consider in the 90s it wasn't heavily foreign induced, especially from a coaching perspective. There was still some top English management, and obviously Alex Ferguson won a lot of them, and you could argue British and all the rest of it, but still, like, we've not been able to generate a level of manager that's been able to win the top flight in this country. So it is a really, really interesting one. And I think what also plays against him is the way that it kind of ended at Leeds. You know, he kind of pitted out. We lost the cup final. He then gets sacked, and I think he had a spell at Sunderland after that as well, didn't he? But the game had evolved and moved on. And like so many older managers, he didn't. Alex Ferguson was the only one really that kind of moved with the times, and Wenger, but Wenger was so far before his time as well. But you see it with a lot of managers. I mean, look at the time, Ron Atkinson and even some of the others that were around at the time. They didn't stand the test of time because the game moved on so much. Howard Wilkinson was kind of part of that generation, but yeah, he should forever be held in such high esteem certainly with the Leeds fans.
Yeah, indeed. Let's have a look at the league table then today. So Leeds United, 17th, moved out of the relegation zone. West Ham are in action today against Manchester United at Old Trafford. So if we get a result that goes our way, that's a 3-point buffer to that relegation zone there. The points per game, it's back on track. 14 games, 14 points. They're very much spoken about points per game. But I mean, it's just lovely reading, isn't it? That we kind of got a win and we're out of there. I mean, you can see the 4 crosses before that, Jay. It's nice to have a green tick at last next to us.
Yeah, but again, I'll repeat something I said last night. That them 4 ticks in a row are not that surprising to me. No. And it's no surprise that a team that are down there are going to lose 4 games in a row and still sit 17th. Yeah. This is going to happen a lot in the Premier League between now and the end of the season. You know, look at Bournemouth. I know you mentioned Bournemouth last night. 3 places in front of us are taking less points over them 5 games. You know, this is the Premier League. You lose a lot of games. There's a lot of very, very good teams. We have actually won. We have won 1 less game than Newcastle and Spurs, who are just above the Bournemouth that you can see there, 13th and 12th. Newcastle and Spurs have both won 5 games each. It's not easy to win games in the Premier League, guys. This is the facts. So you're going to lose a lot, and we need to obviously then win games that we maybe didn't expect to, like we did last night, especially at home. But again, I'm going to reiterate is why it's so important that we are all over it at Ellen Road. We made the difference last night. I really believe that. And right now we're on course to finish in 17th.
Yeah.
And I'm taking it before a ball kick.
All day.
Yeah. So just on that league table as well, I mean, I imagine being in Wolves' position right now. I mean, Jesus Christ, like... I don't know. Burnley is starting to get Scott Parker. They're melting away a little bit, and you know West Ham have had a turnaround and still find themselves 18th. You know they've had this injection of this new manager, like everybody so desperately wanted.
Yeah,
and look, it might turn out right. They might end up saying, "Look, they've got more quality than us." But the facts are is it's not been everything that people try and make out that it is. You know.
No, it's not been a bed of roses, and there's still, you know, I mean, you've got Pacata banned now for 3 games, and there's just West Ham. There's just something there, and are you looking at West Ham, Jay, and probably thinking if there is someone we can edge out? Yeah, let's get rid of that now. If there is someone we can edge out, is it most likely to be West Ham? Do you think, just kind of based on what we've seen so far?
I just think that they've got more issues going on. I think that you can argue that there's a lack of quality within the squad as well. I know we had some debates on this show when we were playing them as to where they kind of stand. I still think they're better than us on paper, but the depth of the squad is pretty weak. They've got a couple of players that they're relying on that are a bit of loose cannons. Paqueta's one of them. You know, it didn't surprise me at all what he did at the weekend. It looks like he's been trying to get sent off all season. I remember at Ellen Road, it looked like he wanted to get sent off. Yeah. Callum Wilson's kind of been bringing in their points recently. You know he's going to get injured at some point, more than likely. So yeah, maybe them and Fulham. I still think Fulham are in and around, are going to be in and around problems. I know that they've got a 3-point gap or whatever it is to us now, but I think they're probably the 2. I think Forest will be absolutely fine, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it does. It feels like Forest are kind of, I mean, 3 wins in the last 5. It feels like, you know, it's a Dyche, innit? It's a Dyche thing, and they've got some good quality as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see. Looking ahead then, Liverpool at the weekend, Jay, and I mean, talking about a team in disarray and a team struggling. I mean, Liverpool this season, I mean, it's kind of phenomenal. Obviously, you have to offset it with a tragic loss in the summer. And look, that can have untold consequences on the atmosphere, the feeling. I mean, I found it quite at the time when it happened, and then the players come back for pre-season shortly after, and it just feels like, just football just doesn't stop, does it? And, look, of course it's not going to stop, it's going to carry on, but it's almost like they didn't have time to breathe, and then they're right back in you got to get right at it again. They also, a couple of signings that seem very not really Liverpool style in the transfer market, spending over 100 million on 2 players, and Arne Slot all of a sudden under a lot of pressure. It's just not right, is it, at Liverpool at the minute? I mean, it's an unbelievable drop-off, really.
I think there's a combination of things, personally. I think Van Dijk's a little bit over the hill at the same time as the fact that Konate is already 1 foot out the door. I think you've got Mohamed Salah who's lost his legs. I think you've got an imbalance in the side in terms of the profiles that they needed within the squad to improve it. You obviously had the Diego Jota situation, which is obviously massively tragic, and I can only imagine what that must feel like to the boys that are in the dressing room. Every week there'll be a big hole that's not being filled. Then players come and go all the time, but this is obviously different, and I think that will be affecting them way more than what people give it credit for, because how do you go on with the same level of intensity and priority when that's what's happened to one of your teammates? So, and I think all that together, they were lucky through the first 5 games of this season. They didn't really deserve to win the first 5, and they found themselves on 5 out of 5 wins. They could have easily been on 4 points. Genuinely, they were really poor. So I think this is just a continuation of what's been going on all season, really. And then yesterday, I don't know this, but from what I heard in the commentary, they got battered yesterday.
Yeah,
they got absolutely battered. So it's not changed just because they've won a game at the weekend and then got a point this week. So they are in a bit of form, however. They've not lost now in the last 2, which has kind of stopped the rot, if you like. But I don't imagine that they'll fancy turning up to Ellen Road on the back of us beating Chelsea on Wednesday night on Saturday. I don't think they're going to really like that. They certainly would prefer other games than this one. So I think if we set up the same, we bring the same level of intensity to this, I think Metcher and Calvert-Lewin are going to be massive on Saturday, because if you can get under their skin, really bully Van Dijk and Konate about, I think that's where the game will be won and lost.
Yeah, absolutely, and I guess that's where it's a big ask on 2 strikers with checkered injury histories, and that's where I start to kind of worry a little bit about the depth for this kind of formation, because there isn't any really in certain key areas. And are we going to be able to replicate the intensity that we showed last night again, just 3 days later?
Probably not.
No, I don't. Well, I'm kind of not expecting us to be honest. I think winning last night almost kind of it's okay, it's not okay to lose a game, but do you know what I mean? It's like, it feels like because we've won last night, to try and replicate that level of intensity. I mean, Bogle and Goodmanson, they can't do that again 3 days later, surely.
Yeah, the levels of fitness, the recuperation, the rest days are going to be massive, and the motivation levels, and again, I'm going to say it, the crowd. The crowd can drag that team through. Just want to mention the comment, because I saw Jeezy put one about Bornau a minute ago. The reason that I'm saying that without seeing Bornau playing in the back 3, Jeezy, is that's what Farke said. Farke said if Bornau was injured, we wouldn't play in the back 5, because it wouldn't then leave us an option to replace one of the centre backs should we need to. So that's why if one of Struijk, Rodon, or Biol get injured, you're unlikely to see the back 5.
Yeah, I think Farke did say last night, they're monitoring a few players, and I'm not surprised after an effort like that. And it's a busy December. We've got games coming thick and fast, and it's going to be a real test on that front. Because we suddenly, Nonto's redundant now. If you're doing that formation, Okafor's not a starter. You're suddenly looking at it going, what do we? I mean, James Justin can do a job in a wing-back role, I guess. I mentioned Jack Harrison possibly being able to replicate some of what Goodmanson does, but it might not be the same really. So I mean, it's interesting because it does kind of cause a few headaches in that way.
I think the squad has not been built at all for a 5-3-2. You trying to make it work. I think the first 11 is fine. I saw somebody, again, just going down this rabbit hole, somebody yesterday saying that Nonto should play at the 10 in this. I mean, first they were saying Okafor, and then they're saying that Nonto. I mean, do you realise just how cut open we would be in that midfield if you were playing the 2 with then a 10 and out like a natural 10? No, you have to play with the 3 because the quality within them adds together to make it work. As a 2, I think personally, Ampadu and Stack just get run through. I think they get run through. So no, not for me. I agree with you. I think there's some players that are seriously redundant in this system. If this is what we're going to go ahead with, I don't see how Nonto or Dan James start another game. I don't get it. You could argue maybe you could play Dan James up front off a big man.
Yeah.
Could you make the same argument for Willie Nonto? I don't think so. I don't see him as that kind of. I know he played there for Italy once upon a time, but I'm not really about it. Okafor, I think, can play as the 9, but again, I wouldn't be starting him for a second over the other 2. He can't do that level of work. He doesn't do the link-up play, doesn't do the hold-up play, doesn't do the dirty stuff. He won't be able to press for 60 minutes. He can press for 30. That's different. So yeah, there's some serious issues. I think the midfields are all okay, Browney. I think you've got an all right person there because I think they're all naturally kind of okay in a 3. Longstaff can come back in. Gruev can play there, but yeah, I won't be so sure in certain areas. Left back, striker, and then what do you do with the surplus players?
Well, I was going to say, I mean, going into a January transfer window, do you? I don't know. I mean, I don't know how these things work, but is there a world in which, Nonto especially, if you get a semi-decent offer, do you just do it? Because bless him, I just don't think it's going to be the answer. But then it's how much do you commit to this 3-5-2? What if we get found out in 4 games' time and suddenly it's like, we need wingers again, and it's like, what do you do then? Yeah,
you've got to be careful because people are now saying that this is a guaranteed solution. It's 1 game. It's not. The teams now are going to start working on this, and they'll be using their better players to find big gaping holes to pick this apart. And obviously, it'll be our job to kind of try and make sure that doesn't happen. But there is big weaknesses to the 5-3-2 as well. It's not just if it were the perfect formation, everybody would play it. Like there is limitations to it, especially down the wings in a defensive capacity, because you're asking the fullback to do a lot of work, and we saw some of the issues that he caused with Garnacho yesterday. Yeah. Isolates the fullback, and then Jayden Bogle got absolutely skinned a couple of times yesterday. So it's not perfect. It does limit isolate the strikers at times, but I think that's why Calvert-Lewin and Metra are so important, because their ability to be able to hold the ball up allows players to get up and alongside them, whereas a Nonto or a Dan James won't be able to do that. Okafor,
Peru.
Peru won't be able to do that.
Not that a lot fight, is it?
Yeah.
So it's a few issues there. Just want to bring a couple of comments that have come into it. Davey mentions here, thanks for coming. James Justin has played in a back 3, so I mean,
guy's 5'5". I'm not having James Justin in a back 3. No. I mean, he's tiny, isn't he? He's tidgy. He's like playing Jayden Bogle. I know he can play. I know he has played centre back, but again, we're trying to build around this physical presence, and it was a big part of what our recruitment strategy was around. I want to see big, burly, brutish centre backs that are prepared to have a fight with the strikers. Close the gap in that quality by making it physical. James Justin is not 6 foot. If James Justin, I'm going to check this out now. If James Justin's 6 foot, I've got 12 that's what I'm saying, Browner. If he's 6, I've got 12 incher in the pants. But James Justin.
There we go. This is the moment of truth.
If that's the case, then I apologise. Yeah, you know what he is. Well, that's what wicked. That's what.
Is that because we've got giants and even 6 foot looks small when you see?
He looks tiny on the pitch. He looks literally tiny on the pitch.
There we go.
Fair play. I'm wrong.
Problem solved.
Clearly, I'm hung like a horse, Brownie, because James is 6 foot.
Want to bring this one here, Okafor on at 60 when defenders are tiring. Now, I want to actually give a shout out to Okafor as well, because when I've kind of grown a little bit frustrated with Okafor when he's huffing and puffing after about 30 minutes in a game, I'm just, and he does this kind of thing where he would like attempt to beat a man, but it's a bit half-hearted. I've got to say, he really chased things down. Obviously, causes the third goal, and I just want to say, for me, if you're playing this, that is Okafor's role. Come on, he's got pace, he's got trickery. He's not someone you want to be facing, is it? As a tiring defender in the 70th minute, you don't want to see Okafor, who's built like a 100-meter sprinter, coming on at you. So that for me that's kind of a nice little thing that we can go to, and for me that's his role going forward.
He showed great attitude yesterday. I thought his attitude was excellent. And that's all you can ask for, and he needs to earn his place within this team because he's lost his place within the team. I would argue one of the reasons why we've had to go to this 5-3-2 was because of how ineffective he was on the wing. Yeah. Him and James and Aronson and it's part of the problem of why we've been so lackluster, is that there's been nothing coming from them areas of the pitch. So he's got to now earn his place back in the team. And you're right, like he really, really did put a shift in yesterday. Really good work to earn that opportunity to cause the problem that led to the third goal. And he has, I'm not going to rewrite the narrative. He has got the X factor that the rest of the team don't have. He has got that element of quality. He's capable of beating players. I think probably only him and Gabby are capable of actually beating players. Maybe Jayden Bogle as well. Yeah. There's not really a lot of technical, real skillful players that are able to go past a player at pace, and Okafor can do that. So, but I just wouldn't be starting him in it yet. There's not for me. What you see with Metch and Calvert-Lewin together, it works really well.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's another little tip of the hat to Farke as well, because it must be really, hard. I don't know what your opinion on this is, but kind of managing players' morale across, a squad, and someone like Okafor probably came in. I don't know what his expectations were, but he's got a bit of a reputation. He's fallen out with a Swiss manager. There's a little bit of a kind of disruptive kind of reputation there, but he looks bang up for it. He looks, he came on last night and he looks absolutely bang up for it. I think Farke is, I get the feeling, a really good man manager. Now, some might argue, they might point to like Jed Spence, for example. I personally think Jed Spence has a side to him where he is an absolute knob. This thing that he does on Instagram where it's like you're in the Jed Spence penitentiary, and he did it to his own player, to his own teammate, Johnson, when England play Wales. It's like, I'm like, for God's sake. And then when he didn't acknowledge Frank, when Frank were trying to get it, so he has got that side to him.
He's got history as well, hasn't he? It's not isolated, is it, just to Daniel Farke? I mean, Neil Warnock have dealt with some right characters over the years, and he bombed him out, said he was awful. Clearly, he's a talented footballer. He need a certain scenario and set of circumstances to work to his best, but that's not just the manager's duty to do that. Like, there's got to be some culpability, some accountability from the individual as well. I agree with you. I think he's great at man management. I think, the way that he handled Nonto when Nonto wanted out at the door and reintegrated him, people just overlooked that. I think Somerville, will have probably been a bit of a handful to manage as well. I think he managed Archie Gray really well. Jorginho Rutter's kind of development and situation really, really. But people forget that Joe Perreault's so young still, and brought him into the situation and got him scoring on a regular basis in the Championship at the top level. Among countless others, there's loads of situations and circumstances where he's kept players happy and motivated and then produced on the pitch. I'd argue that the situation with Darlow and Meslier last year, people don't want to wear it, but I actually think he got it right.
Yeah.
Maybe did he wait a couple of games too long? Maybe, fine, whatever, right? But there's so much more attached to dropping a goalkeeper than just take him out, put him in. It's not just as simple as that. Especially for a keeper like Caldalo that spent 3 years not playing a game and just filling in and playing in the cup. And we've all seen his limitations then since as well. He tried to handle it in the best way possible until it got to the point where he had no other alternative than to say to Willan, I'm really sorry. Like, this has gone beyond. I've backed you as much as I can. And the players around will respect that more as well. You know, if the number one doesn't change very often, right? If the first time there's a problem, the manager just goes, you're out, you're in. Yeah, what does that say to everybody else? I can't make a mistake. You know, mentally, that puts you in actually more stress. You know, so I think it's a good manager, me personally. I really do.
Yeah, I think it's one of them things. I personally think Pat Bamford's been a bit naughty this summer with a couple of interviews and a couple of quotes that he's given as well. I think
he knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's doing. I mean, I would even go back to when he was still had a contract with us. He did an interview with an American station, and you know, he kind of went round the circles almost like purposely not to give any kind of credence or credit to Farke at all, you know, and then he had comments about Joffy not being picked, even though he was the best trainer, and not understanding it and all that. So a couple of naughty things. And look, he's got every right to be honest about the situation, how he feels and things, but you know, and this idea that he was fit for 30-odd games, it's like, mate, we've seen your injury record for 4 or 5 years. I mean, you know, pull the other one.
Pat Bamford knows exactly what he's doing because he knows exactly what the Leeds fans are like. Yeah. We're a bit soft and a bit gullible at times, and we'll buy into this kind of stuff, and the haters will absolutely jump all over it because it's an easy excuse to. But we know, we saw, you know, I'm not gonna I were a big Pat fan. I defended him to the absolute moon and back in the Bielsa days, you know, right the way through until the injuries really started taking over. But from Premier League season 2 to the end of Pat Bamford's time, he did not trust his body. It took him a long time to get back. Me and you sat on countless streams saying we're watching a broken, dead version of Patrick Bamford. Last season, especially in the second half, after January onwards, he played a really big part. He played a really big part off the bench. He played a role. I remember the Middlesbrough game as an example. He was absolutely fantastic. He was excellent when he came off the bench that day. Really helped us win the game. But Joe Perreault was the number one striker in the division. He scored all the goals. He was the man. You're not getting in front of that. You know, Pat has done an unbelievable job for Leeds United, but let's not just pretend that you didn't get in because Daniel Farke didn't like you. You got in because you were a bit washed, you were struggling with your body, you were injured. Sure, maybe you were more available last season to actually start games, but you were behind the best striker in the division. So shut up.
Exactly, absolutely.
And you know, this job
to terminate his contract to get rid of him. Nobody wanted to touch Pat Bamford. Let's be honest. He's only got a contract till January.
Exactly. He's got a 1-month deal at the bottom end of the championship. Let's behave ourselves. Let's not rewrite the narrative just because it suits. You know, Calvert-Lewin right now at the stage of his career is miles ahead of Patrick Bamford. And this narrative with regards to Joffy being the best trainer under that, Joffy didn't play under any of the managers, not regularly. Bielsa, Marsh, Gracia, Allardyce. He played a substitute impact role and did it well on occasions. You know, what we're talking, 5 occasions tops that Joffy really influenced games. And some of it will have been the club letting him down. But bear in mind how often Joe Gelhardt got injured. Joe Gelhardt was notorious. He'd earn a spot, he'd get injured. He'd be out for 4 weeks.
Well, it's like Glenn says here, I remember Pat getting injured celebrating a goal on his comeback from
Brentford at home.
I remember that.
Brentford at home. Yeah, I remember.
I mean, that just sums it up, doesn't it?
Just use this opportunity. I know I don't want to go on too long today. I know you've got on a time limit, but do we bring Joffy back? Because I've been dead against it. I've been really, really dead against it. We mentioned it in one of the shows the other day, and I've been like, no, look, he's found his level. He's at the championship. He's getting consistency, right? But now we're starting to see him score on a regular basis, right? And if we went out and signed the top scorer in the championship in January, we'd all be buzzing. We'd be buzzing. So what do we do with him? Because he's got a year left on his deal after this one. Yeah. And the problem is he's not going to sign another contract. But you wouldn't have thought if he's not going to get an opportunity at Leeds. So, I mean, just in Gav's comment about maybe, but who's going to buy him? And what are you going to get him for? And bear in mind the amount of money that he's on. He's on a big wage at Leeds, which causes a bit of a problem. I just think we're in a bit of a situation with Joffrey where it might be smart to bring him back, because we look at the bench at the moment and we're saying where are the options and the different opportunities coming from, and who can do this and who can do that. Gellert would actually probably bring us more than what we've got on the bench right now. It'd give us a seriously good option.
And if you're playing the two up top as well, he can be that kind of
that
thinker. It makes more sense now because he's not a winger, and he's not an out-and-out one-man up front striker kind of situation. So it would make more sense. I mean, look, the thing with Gellert is I've always been kind of excited about his potential, and there were times when I thought he should have got more game time than what he got. But like you say, it's been manager after manager, season after season, where he's not had the opportunity. My feeling was, look, if we end up going back to the Championship, do you make him your main man almost? Do you kind of build around someone like you say who's top scorer in the Championship? Then does he become? I don't know. Pulling him into a Premier League squad, I don't see any point bringing him back for small little cameos and that kind of thing. I mean, Joe Peru's there, and Peru's getting Jarrett minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is he really going to usurp? Peru? I'm not too sure. Sure. So it depends. But I hear you, and I'm glad he's doing well. I'm glad he's finally found a hope.
What about a world in which you sell Peru for 20 million, and you then bring Joffrey back? I just think that we're in a bit of a. I've been dead against it. Really dead against it. But the more the goals I see him scoring, the way that I see him influencing games, and I think, he's now carrying Hull to a top 6 position in the Championship. We'd be dead excited if we were signing a young English lad from the Championship that we're tearing it up, and we've actually got him on the books. The biggest problem with Gellert has been injuries and position, where to play him, and both of them seem to be now sorted. So I don't know. I just think there might be something where we can resurrect a situation with him. But I take the point that it might be right to just cash in January and then look to use and feed somewhere else. I struggle to think that we'll get that much for him.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Brilliant. So just before we wrap up, then, Jay, Liverpool on Saturday. Do you think we can replicate the last night's result, or how do you see it going?
It's so close to the Chelsea game and the legs and all the rest of it, but they played on the same night as well. They're still not in great form coming to Ellen Road. We've got to make it hostile again and really go at them. I would take a point, if I'm honest. I'd take a point right now and just get a succession of continuity, no losing a game again. I'd take that now and just move on to the next one. 15 from 15. All the points per game bus. Come on, Daniel Parker kind of stuff. But I think the biggest thing that came from last night is that we've now just got to get behind this. He's not going to get sacked after Liverpool now, in my opinion. We've seen enough regardless of what the result is. I'd be shocked. I'd be really shocked. And then we've got some really, really winnable games, and we're winning games now that you would consider not winnable. So let's just get behind it. We've seen a manager that notoriously has been told. People told me that he doesn't change. Well, he has changed. So
100%. Yeah, 3-5-2. Come on, here we go.
I think we can get something, mate. I'm going to say 1-1.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at that Brentford game away, and I'm looking at that game going, give us a performance away from home, Leeds. Give us give us an away performance. Let's go and do them. Let's be aggressive, and let's that's what I'm looking at. But I agree. I would snap your hand off for a point now for Saturday, because I think it'll be hard for us to replicate what we did against Chelsea. I just think 3 days later, after an absolute war like that, I'm not sure we can do it. But who knows? You never know. Good stuff. Well, thank you everyone who's got involved in the chat. Really appreciate all your comments. If you've not done it already, if you wouldn't mind just smashing a like on the video and get subscribed to the channel as well. Myself and Jason, we will be back. Thank you very much for watching. Jason, thank you, mate.
Thank you, mate.
And we'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.